All right, so greetings and a very good morning. We would like to bid to our respected Professor Dr. Muhammad Azmi Muhammad Lila, Dean, Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, University Putra, Malaysia, Associate Professor Dr. Nur Yasmin Abdurrahman, and Dr. Nur Fazila Sarul Hamid, coordinators of One Earth, One Health Project 2024, Mr. Mogesh Sababadi, Malaysian Youth Climate Advocate and co-founder of Climax, respected invited speakers, Dr. Nur Inda Ahmad, Senior Lecturer in Veterinary Public Health, University Putra, Malaysia, Ms. Sugita Kanya Seelan, ESD Program Lead, WWF Malaysia, Ms. Sarah Isha, Youth Climate Champion, UNICEF Malaysia, lecturers and students of Doctor of Veterinary Medicine Program UPM, and to our participants joining us online scattered across different corners of the world. For your information, we are also telecasting our forum through online platforms Zoom and My Own YouTube channels. We are pleased to welcome you to this One Earth, One Health Forum session with the slogan, Nurturing Nature, Empowering Tomorrow, organized by the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, University Putra, Malaysia, in collaboration with My Own and Climax. I'm Yugashni Muhilan, and it is my privilege to serve as your MC for this insightful and impactful gathering. Before we begin, a little reminder to all the participants present physically and to our participants joining us online, attendance link for today's event will be given at any time. Kindly be alert. Thank you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, to commence our program, we are pleased to invite Associate Professor Dr. Nur Yasmin Abdul Rahman, coordinator of One Earth, One Health Project 2024, to deliver her welcoming remarks.
Thank you, Miss Yuka, our MC for today. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And very good morning to Professor Datuk Dr. Muhammad Azmi Muhammad Lela, Dean, Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, Dr. Nur Fazila Saulul Hamid, Co-Coordinator for One Earth, One Health Project, Mr. Mogesh, founder or representative from ClimX, and our distinguished speakers, Ms. Sugita from WWF Malaysia, Ms. Sarah from UNICEF, Dr. Nur Indah, representative from our faculty, as well as from my own, our beloved lecturers and esteemed participants of today, which involve Doctor of Veterinary Medicine Program, as well as our online participants across the world. It is with a great pleasure that I stand before you today to extend my warmest welcomes to the One Earth, One Health 2024 Forum with the slogan, Nurturing Nature, Empowering Tomorrow. I would like to take this opportunity to express my deepest gratitude to the management of the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine for their support in the execution of this event. For your information, this program is a part of Doctor of Veterinary Medicine program, and we will extend this program to the community outreach program, which involve Orang Asli community. Heartfelt appreciations also goes to the funder of One Earth, One Health 2024 project, the ClimX and my own. Most of us are well versed on the immense roles of my own Malaysia One Health University Network in One Health and might be wondering what is ClimX. ClimX is a youth initiative NGO with an inspiration vision to accelerate the formation of community that is aware of environmental issues and nurture youth in nature conservation. As we know, the COVID-19 pandemic dramatically reinforced the urgent imperative action to minimize the chances of another zoonotic potential. And I believe participation in this forum is a witness of your collective commitment and engagement in promoting One Health initiative and nature conservation. Alhamdulillah, today we are blessed to have our multidisciplinary eminent speakers who are experts in animals and public health, wildlife conservation initiative, and youth environmentalists who will bring us into valuable insights in solving the challenges and issues pertaining to Earth and One Health. Lastly, as we gather here with the power of collective knowledge, shared goals, and our diverse perspective, I hope the aims of this forum to nurture the young generation in nature conservation and One Health aspiration will become success. Thank you.
Thank you, Associate Professor Dr. Nur Yasmin Abdul Rahman, for setting the tone for our forum today. Moving on, we would like to invite Professor Dato Dr. Muhammad Azmi Muhammad Lila, Dean, Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, University Putra, Malaysia, to deliver his opening remarks.
Thank you to our MC. Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good morning to everyone. I feel that I'm very honored to be here, to be among you, the youth. Even though I'm not a youth anymore, but I feel that I'm still one of you. I feel sorry about that, because I'm taking a piece of your cake. So, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to thank you to the organizing committee, to make this forum successful. And then I would like to thank you to our speakers from WWF, our speakers from, I forgot, UNICEF, our great partner, and also all the participants in this very room, our eminent students, the Doctor of Veterinary Medicine's year 2 and year 5, and also everyone online. I know that I learned that there were about more than 300 participants online watching this program, and I really feel that this is actually a great program for everyone to participate, to learn, to get the knowledge, and also not to forget to be what we call this connected to each other. Don't forget, you have many people online, you have many people to do, and this actually our colleague, our friends, actually more or less the same generations as what you are. Even though you have DVM2, the difference in the DVM5, the difference maybe 2 or 3 years, it is not significant at all when you actually going higher and then beyond the youth. As we gather here, I heard our MC mentions about few words. Number one is veterinary. That's our profession. Second is about environment. Okay, that is the place that we believe. This is actually related with our one earth, and then the other one is community, which is we're talking about. We cannot work alone. We cannot work alone. We cannot live alone. So this is what we are talking about, community. Okay, we cannot run away from that. Whatever profession you are, in this case, we are actually veterinarian. We have to work, hand in hand, in order to make the community growing better with a better future, and maybe you see in nurturing nature, empowering tomorrow. That is our future. That is your future. Okay, as everyone know about this, based on the theme here, youth action in animal conservation and zoonotic disease prevention, meaning that youth would like to take lots of action to make sure the animal species conserved, and also the disease, the zoonotic disease can be prevented. You know that we are all of us here, even though you are here online, we are a part of the ecosystems of the many diseases. Ecosystem diseases, If we can break the ecosystem, then the disease cannot progress that so much. You can see, from the COVID, beginning in 2019, October 2019, I heard about that. We didn't do so much. Everybody in the world actually already aware about COVID-19, coronavirus, 2019. Sometimes in October, in 2019. I was on the way to Nigeria, in later of this year and sometime in following month in November. But we don't really didn't really do so much on COVID. We just like listening to a radio, not doing anything. We somehow in trance, or maybe really relax, not doing anything. Even though we are part of the system, we don't do anything or not doing anything much. In the end, that disease quickly going everywhere now around the globe. So that's what we have today. The cost of that disease is not in billion, in trillion. Death, vaccinations, salary, extra efforts by the health workers, and then government policies, many costs that we have. In fact, that let's say trillion US dollars can be used to develop youth program, more youth program. So this is what I see the importance of what we call this to understand what we call this disease, zoonotic disease prevention and of course, animal conservation. Of course, these are actually two different topics, two different what we call these categories of activities. But I believe that with the many youth that we have around the world, some country they have more youth than old people. That's actually the current demographic profile of certain countries. So they have youth should supposed to be vibrant, progressive, you know, innovative, have lots of energies, and then that is actually your assets. If you don't, if youth, which this is actually people like me, no more youth, we cannot reach the assets anymore. If you don't use that assets, what will happen? If you don't capitalize on that asset, what will happen? The community won't go that far, won't go that much, because one day in future you will be no more youth. You during the time where the youth you define as with those what we call this trait, use it. Now, if you don't use it, other people will capitalize on youth. So it's a waste. So if during this time actually when you are young, actually you can do so many things. You can accumulate asset, you can accumulate strength, you can accumulate wealth, you can accumulate friendship, you can develop network in order to address this issue. You can see that around the world. You see, the top management, of course, no more youth, but the people really act on whatever you're supposed to do, they are actually youth people. It's actually among you. So I'm actually feel very honored to be with you all today, and I really hope that this forum, you try to get as much as possible, try to learn this forum, not actually for the sake of your what we call this course, you know, try to absorb, try to immerse yourself, to this, and try to go further, more than beyond this forum. You can get a lot more information, from our friends, UNICEF, from WWF, or either direct face to face, maybe online, maybe you can do informations exchange, with your friends online. So One Health is still One Health. It cannot move forward with your vibrance, your energies, your energetics action on this. So One Health is actually a collaborative, multi-sectorial, coordinated, and transdisciplinary approach where people actually need to work together, whether at local level, or regional level, or international, or global level, with the goals of achieving optimal health outcomes by recognizing the interconnections between people, animals, plant, and their shared environment. I'm sure you know about the SG, right? Sustainable Development Goals. So read that. I know not everybody know about that. Maybe it's just a jargon. And now we have another one. We have ESG. You know ESG? Environment, Society, Governance. And ESG is actually, this is not what you all think. It is not just about society. It's about economy. It's about business. It's about finance. If you don't, right, if in future, if you don't comply, companies not complying ESG, maybe cannot make business, with other entities, especially with other entities abroad. That's also to include, people, your stakeholder in the veterinary profession. those people that producing drugs, those people that actually provide manufacture equipments, no, or softwares and so on, they must comply ESG requirements in the future. So it is hot topics, and many big companies, corporate giants, no, they're going for that kinds of trainings. So One Health could be a part of it. So this forum, I presume that it's a greatest platform again, to incubate the innovative ideas and then provide space where your voice, no, matters to everyone. So I hope that everybody can embrace the opportunity again to connect and learn and inspire and to be inspired, no, by one or another as we all collectively strive for one earth, one health, and not one person. Okay. Before I end my what we call this brief notes here, I would like to thank you for being the small driving force. Maybe try to motivate you in this very morning, uh, to give you a positive charge so that you work positively. So your passions and commitments are the catalyst and also the batteries, the fuel that will propel all of us towards a greater future where the well-being of our people, our planets, animals, will be safeguarded properly. With that, let us embark on the journey to explore and then to listen to dialogue, and then hopefully it will everyone will enjoy what we call this the forum today and get the most of it and use it for the preservations of your what we call these um, nurturing natures and empowering tomorrow. Thank you very much. Bye.
So thank you, Professor Dato Dr. Muhammad Azmi, Muhammad Lila, for the wonderful remarks. He has encouraged us to utilize our asset, yes, youth, to contribute to the protection of the environment and the community. All right, so moving forward, we have a series of engaging sessions planned for you. To kick off the most important part of our forum, we have a sharing session by distinguished invited speakers who bring a wealth of knowledge and experience. Without further ado, allow me to first briefly introduce our first speaker of the day, Dr. Nur Indah. Dr. Nur Indah is currently a senior lecturer at the Department of Veterinary Pathology and Microbiology, Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, UPM. Dr. Noor teaches veterinary public health and One Health. Her current research interests encompass antimicrobial resistance, wildlife zoonosis, One Health empowerment, and veterinary anthropology. Now, let's welcome Dr. Noor Indah up to the stage. Okay, looks like there's a bit of technical issues. Please be patient while we fix it.
Okay, good morning. So while we are waiting for the technical things to resolve, so hi, good morning, everyone.
to the respected Dean, Dato' Azmi Lila, and then to all the distinguished speakers. We've got Miss Sugita, Miss Sarah, Mogesh, and the MC. So thank you very much. And also, I forgot you, Dr. Yasmin. Okay, all right. So because there would be a mixture of audience. So some of the things, especially the vet students, may have heard before this, but you might have forget. So it's a good time to also dialogue and start to think about things that you may be asking questions together with our other speakers. Okay, so I'm just going to go through quickly uh, a bit on the background as to how I started. So I started like all of you back in 2007, graduated from UPM with a DVM. Okay, so this is one of the field experience that we had chasing buffaloes, trying to vaccine them with FMD vaccine in Langkawi. Okay, so I've got my colleague over there as well, Dr. Farina. All right, and then in 2010, I went a bit, in the Netherlands. So did a lot of work in the dry lab, dealing with data, Dutch bulk tank data for 10 years data. So 1.5 years over there, and then went to Scotland to look, so from data to the end of the cow. So which means that I was focusing a lot on the terminal rectum of a cattle. So it kind of like really humbles you because you kind of like, wow, after you graduate DVM, like I'm a vet. And then you're reduced to being sitting in front of a computer, dealing with it, data, and then in 2016, you have to just stare at the end of a cattle. But I was dealing a lot with a specific type of E. coli that can cause a very nasty infection, diarrhea, and it can also cause kidney failure, and it can be fatal in some individuals. So that's just a bit of a whirlwind background of where I began. And then I involved a lot in terms of research. When I came back, it was on antimicrobial resistance, and then mainly in companion animals. So we have cats, dogs. I started to pave the pathway in terms of research on AMR and companion animals. And then a bit on in chickens as well, so looking at a specific type of bacteria that lingers around in our gut. It can also be in our own gut, okay? So, and then trying to see any relationship with the bacteria that is present in the bacteria within the feces of our companion animals. So a bit of here and there, and then that was when I came across One Health, because I think back in 2016 it was quite new as to us here in Malaysia. Okay, so I was involved a lot with, especially with the public health team here at the faculty. So it was a very important and relevant topic at that time. And then looking back, why people talk about, One Health and zoonotic diseases and wildlife is that because majority, 60% of the emerging infectious diseases in humans are from animal or are related to animals. And then 70% of that were found to be originating from wildlife. Okay? And then probably some of you are familiar with these kind of like diseases that you've seen. So most of them are emerging infectious diseases. So it can be newly found. For example, we have our very own Nipah virus disease outbreak circa 1998, 1999. And then the rest of this EIDs, okay? So it can be very taxing both to economically and also in terms of fatalities, okay? So that's why we have all these quadripartites over here, FAO, UN, EP, specifically, WHO, and the WOA, okay? So previously known as OIE, so they've rebranded the name, World Organization for Animal Health, okay? So they signed the pact, MOU, and so it's to come up with this holistic, more definitive definition of One Health approach. So highlighting the important words over there, integrated, but it's not just integrated if you're in the room, but if you're not talking to each other, that's not truly integrating. Okay, so you have to unify, you have to agree on a certain things, okay, in order to achieve balance and to optimize the health of not just us, okay, but also humans, animals, plants, and our ecosystems. Okay, so everything are closely linked and interdependent. Okay, and then that brings to, when we talk about working with One Health, so the One Health Workforce Next Generation project, which stems out from the successful implementation of the One Health Workforce. So that this two projects is coming up to the 10th year this year. So it is fully funded by the USAID and it's channeled through SIAHUN, which is the Southeast Asia One Health University Network. And then over here in our country, we have Malaysia One Health University Network. We also have our sister OHUN regional in Africa, known as AfroHUN. So AfroHUN and SIAHUN. Okay. So our vision is as a network, okay, for social and intellectual excellence on One Health against infectious and zoonotic diseases of both national and global concern. Because we can't just be talking about the health of people within our country, okay? We travel a lot, okay? We are connected with other countries. So we have to look at from both national and global level. All right, so over here, we are physically here, the National Coordinating Office. So that's our lovely coordinator, Prof. Latifah Hassan. And then we are also governed by the executive board. So we do a lot of the groundwork in implementing projects and activities, especially in community outreach and training the future, which are all of you, and the current One Health workforce. All right. So I think we are familiar with these challenges faced by the current and also future One Health workforce. We, within Malaysia, were smacked within Southeast Asia. Okay, we are blessed with huge, rich biodiversity, flora and fauna. Okay, but at the same time, that can also put us at a global, one of the global hotspot for emerging zoonotic infectious diseases. At the same time, you are able to see population growth, development, landscape changes. So the need to feed our population increases as the cost of living as well. So all of this, when it's multifactorial, okay, and it's very complex and complicated. So that's why we need a One Health approach. We need to work together, right? And then that's what we do as well. We train future workforce, all of you, to be able to be equipped with knowledge, skills, and also behaviors that a perfect One Health team must have in order to successfully implement or work in a One Health approach later on when you graduate. Okay, so that's why we bring in One Health core competencies in all of our training, both the future and the current workforce, mainly from the medical, veterinary, and also environmental health fields. The aim is to inculcate the skills, the knowledge for you to be able to prevent, control, detect, and respond to the occurrence of emerging zoonotic infections. Okay, so these are all the One Health core competencies that outlined by SIAHUN. Okay, so this has been agreed together with other country networks within the Southeast Asia region. So you've seen that collaboration, partnership, leadership, culture, beliefs, values, and ethics, which is very, very important. Policy advocacy, system thinking, communication, and also management. So some of the things you may not have received it formally in your classroom during lecture, okay? But you would learn it through the trainings that we offer. Okay? Right, so these are things. So I see Kaishin over here in the photo. So the key word here is go outside, meet new people, talk to other people, collaborate. You will never not learn, okay? It will humble you more. The more you go out, the more you talk to people, the more you learn, the more you see the world, so you will never be at lost, okay? So you'll be amazed by what is there outside there, okay? Right. So our impact so far, in terms of individuals trained by disciplines, most of the time, for all of the activities that we run, we would want a collaborative participation, okay? So we would have the students from medical faculty, from veterinary faculty, and also from from the environmental health, okay, and also social sciences students as well. Okay, so this is all through the 5 years program, and this is just the cumulatively. We do also try to incorporate those from the social societies, social sciences and humanities program, very important. Okay, and then these are some of the research type of work. You know, it's not just going out there, but also you'll be able to contribute back. You kind of like do a bit of a small research study, and then you'll be able to give back to the community. Okay. So, and this is another project involving Orang Asli Semai, which is still ongoing, in collaboration with different universities, different field, different backgrounds. So it's very, very important. Probably I'll talk about it more later during the forum. Okay? All right. So it basically teaches you to be more culture sensitive and how you communicate, because those are the things that it's not being taught, you know, in formal classroom. Okay, so before I end, I just want to say that a threat anywhere is a threat everywhere. Okay, so One Health leadership, especially in lower to middle income countries, or those that are poverty ridden, those who are more exposed, living within the fringe of forests, marginalized communities, you know, we really have to open our eyes and reach out to them, okay? And then, also at the same time, when you have done your work, when you've done your study research, for example, for academia, you know, you go back to the society and give back. It's not just a matter of collecting data samples and then you just leave the area, because that's not very nice. That's not nice at all, right? So you need to then formulate how to give back to the community, okay? Either through education, empowerment, okay, continuous support to them so that they will be prevented from any diseases, okay, that they might be at risk of. And lastly, incorporating social sciences into the equation is as important as other health-related fields, okay? So that's about it. So I'll pass back to the MC. Thank you very much.
So thank you to Dr. Indah for your insightful sharing. It was a great exposure to Mayahun, Malaysia One Health University Network. Our next speaker, Ms. Sugita, has over 20 years of diversified working experience in fields ranging from banking and finance to telecommunications and education. In her current capacity, Ms. Sugita actively engages with the government, civil service organizations, and youth in Malaysia with tailor-made initiatives to enhance their sustainability, knowledge, and skills to ultimately develop a sustainable society. Let's invite Ms. Sugita from WWF Malaysia to the stage.
Hi, good morning, everyone. First of all, thank you to Mogesh for inviting me here. 10 minutes, huh? Okay, I see the 10 minutes. How is everyone doing today? I can't hear you, come on. How is everyone doing today? Are you asleep, or are you awake, or are you deeply engrossed with your phones? So it gives me great pleasure to be standing here today in UPM. This is yet my first time coming to UPM to do some sharing. So just a little bit about the work that I do. So I've been in WWF Malaysia. I'm reaching my first year anniversary. So I'm a new panda, right? So we all call ourselves panda. So you can see I wear the panda t-shirt very proudly wherever I go. Yeah. So You must be wondering, I've been working for 20 years. What am I doing in WWF Malaysia? How did I end up there, right? So I just want to share a little bit of that story before I go into the deeper sharing about the topic assigned today. So I spent my first 10 years in the corporate sector. I was a communication specialist. And then after 10 years, after 10 years, your lecturers here will resonate with me. You start thinking, what am I doing? What else do I want to do with my life? Everything seems to be becoming more predictable, mundane, every day in, day out. So I thought, you know what, I will drop out of the rat race and I'll do something closer to heart, which is education. So that's how I shifted into the education industry and I joined a private institution to become a lecturer. So I was a senior lecturer for 10 years. So I used to stand in lecture halls like this, so it brings back a lot of memories. Sometimes start screaming at students, "Hey, you at the back, don't sleep, wake up!" So that was quite normal, yeah. You come, those at the back, come fill up the seats at the front. These are all common dialogues that the lecturers use. But I must say, not bad, UPM students, you have left the front 2 rows, but after that you have covered lah. So, okay lah, quite commendable, right? But having said all that, I must say, you have to give a round of applause to yourself because you're here on a Friday morning at 9 o'clock. That is very impressive. I know a lot of you kena paksa by your lecturer lah. This is part of fulfillment of course and all that. This is all the things we lecturers will do. But it's for your good, right? Hopefully lah, it's for your good. So, after another 10 years, already 20 years, ayo. Now again, turning point in life again. It doesn't have to happen every 10 years. For some of you, it can happen every 5 years or every 2 years even. I think the younger you are, the more often you have existential questions about what am I doing, where am I going. So, after 20 years, this is true story. I lost my mother in year 2020. Two, right? She suddenly got cancer, and when we found out it was already stage 4. And then I spent 3 months with her, day in, day out. Of course, she didn't make it. You know why? Because of the pandemic, because of COVID. Yeah, so I lost my mother not to cancer, but because of COVID. So my history with disease, with the pandemic, is a very painful one indeed. Yeah, I could have been prevented. We did as much as we could to prevent it, but her immune system was not as strong, right? So it got me thinking, what do I want to do with the remaining of my working life? And I thought, I want to do something more significant. Teaching is already, I think, to me, a very novel profession, but I thought I could do more. So that's when I started looking out, and here I am with WWF 1 year later, right? So my job involves talking to people like you, going out, doing programs for young people, and that's how I actually got to know Mogesh. So Mogesh is one of friends of WWF, youth friends of WWF. We engage him a lot. In fact, I'm proud to say we have nominated him and sending him to Abu Dhabi end of this month to represent Malaysia as a youth speaker at the World Environmental Education Conference. A clap for him. So I think what Mogesh is doing, I mean, it's a proud thing, but actually what he's doing is advocacy for climate action, right? So Mogesh has been actively doing it. I know all of you are doing it in your very own ways, right? So I'll leave the rest of all this talk for the forum later. Let me come to the serious matters that I have to share. So this image is very special because it was taken on one of the camera traps that we place in, this is from Royal Belum, right? See the curious image of our Malayan tiger, yeah, Harimau Malaya, peering into the camera. Any guesses how many we have left? How many? I can't hear you, louder. Somebody raise your hand. No one want to raise your hand. Hey, veterinary student, cannot be like that. Come on, you are going to take care of these fellas, you know. How many? You Google lah. Yes, we only have around 150 left. Very critically endangered species, right? Elephants? How many elephants we have left? Alamak, this person coming and ask quiz. Should have shared earlier, we could have Googled and kept the answers. This is not answers you need to Google. You need to know them already. You know why? They're becoming lesser. In Malaysia, we have the smallest elephants in the world, pygmy elephants. And where can we find them? Borneo, Bornean elephants, we call them. So we have about 2,000. Orangutans, banyak lagi. Adalah dalam 11,000 lagi. Yeah, but being susceptible, becoming more and more endangered. Why? So these are some of the things I'm going to share very, very quickly. Right, so this is from an IPBES report. Okay, you can go and read what IPBES publishes. They are the Intergovernmental Science Policy Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services. Recently, they published something about invasive alien species. Very good report. Should go and read about it. So here they say that we have come to a point that we, human, have caused so much damage to nature, it's irreversible. Yeah. And today the negative impact, who is feeling the negative impact? Are we feeling it? Yes, because of the climate change, right? So, what caused this? Number one is the usage of land, inappropriate usage of land, right? So because we are not careful with our usage of land, I use the word we, yeah? All of us are involved in this, right? It causes wildlife to lose their habitat and they become in closer proximity to us humans. And because of losing their habitat, they also become very, very stressed. Hey, you take my home. I got no home to go to. Of course, I come to your home lah. The elephants come and rampage around the surrounding areas, right? And when they come around, they also shed pathogens. You know this very well, right? And this causes changes in the pathogen distribution around. Okay, not telling you something that you don't know. So some examples, all right, some examples where infectious disease dynamics have had some alterations is, for example, the flying fox. When the resources for this flying fox, right, are lost because of deforestation, they had to feed on something else, right? So when they feed on something else, and especially they feed on agro products, now it causes the risk of this Hendra virus spillover, right? And then farming. Oh, Malaysia is very well known for farming. Now, we are an agricultural country, which is good because we produce our own livestock. But when we intensify that with things like mango production, right, it causes more problems. So I'm not going to read through all of this, all right? But what I want to say is, you know that when there is no responsibility in the area of land use, it feeds on to greater change in the disease dynamics, all right? Now, what are we aiming for then? To mitigate this, we need landscape immunity. How do we get landscape immunity? So we reverse the inappropriate use of lands. All right? We ensure that wildlife, pathogen, human are all living in perfect balance with each other. Sounds very impossible to do, right? Possible or not? Possible if we all put our heads together, right? Now, next thing, land use done, wildlife trade. Malaysia is top on the chart. We are top on the chart for all the wrong things. Sadly said, yeah, top on the chart for wildlife trade. It's happening rampantly in Asia, and Malaysia is one of it. So in the work of WWF, we engage with the indigenous communities, the LC's local communities, because they are the people who know the forests at the back of their hand. I think one of your lecturers just now pun said she works with the Semai people. I think without the Semai people, she cannot go into the forest, right? Because they are the native people, orang asal, orang asli. So who do the poachers go and look for? Orang asal. So some of the work that we have been doing in WWF, like for example in Royal Belum, we engage the Jahai community. Okay, the Jahai community are the orang asal there. So we get them to be our patrollers. We pay them, we uplift their living. Because they have no sumber pendapatan, right? So this is the way we get them on board to be part of our action, animal conservation. So happy to say we have achieved for last year zero, we have found zero poaching devices, yeah, in the Royal Belum. Thanks to these people, they've covered, they on feet, they walk and look for the whatever traps and all that. So they really play a very big part. Every day they patrol the lands. Yeah, while we sit and Google in our phones. And these are young people like you. They call themselves Menrak. Yeah, you can go and read about them. They are being funded by a lot of organizations to keep doing this work for the nature, right? Now, next. So, when wildlife trade happens, how does that affect zoonotic diseases? You know that the activities, right, that cause contact, human-animal contact, can actually lead to the spread of vector-borne and zoonotic diseases, right? So the more we trade them across, the more the viruses and the bacteria also travel together. And this is especially, research shows 1/4 of all mammal species, are known to host high diversity of viral zoonosis. So this you should also know as veterinary students. Right, so I'm going to go a little bit faster. What we need definitely is early warning and monitoring systems. So as part of WWF International, as part of wildlife practices, we are working very actively to promote this, right? To ensure that we can have a good monitoring system, all right? Why do we need a monitoring system? Anyone here? For what? Why do we need to spend so much of money to have a monitoring system, to have camera traps, to respond very quickly when any of the species are showing some kind of different signs? Why do we need that? One question. How did our pandemic become expanded? You know the answer, right? What were the animals that carried the virus? The bats, right? Because they are very good hosts. We cannot blame the bats, right? Now, so what we know is that by monitoring, we can get good understanding, all right, about this host, about the pathogen dynamics. We can know how diseases are traveling, what is the intensity of this diseases transmission, all right? And we know where they come from, and we know what to do. But if we don't monitor, and it's too late, there's no point in going back to talking about monitoring, right? That's the reason why I'm telling you all this, right? So, this is a case study that I wanted to share. So in Kampoman, Cameroon, and Zanga Sangha, right? This is a protected area where there are gorillas, all right? So they have actually had an outbreak of Ebola in this place, right? And a lot of gorillas were affected because of this outbreak. So what happened was WWF, together with this Helmholtz Institute for One Health, established this early warning system and monitoring system. Why? Because people visit this place for ecotourism purpose. So if there's a virus outbreak, will people visit? Who loses the livelihood? The people in this area. And we know the African region is economically not thriving enough already. They are dependent on these nature resources. So veterinary, why I shared this particular case study is because vet students are actually on board on a permanent job basis in these camps to ensure outbreaks can be mitigated. So they are there 24/7 taking care of these gorillas. So it's very interesting how this early warning system has already been embedded to protect the gorillas, right? Nice looking gorilla, isn't it? Because you wouldn't want to be near one. Right, so the last thing on my presentation, behavioral change, something that I champion as part of my work. Um, so for every environmental challenge, we are the problem and we are the solution. We are the problem because we caused it, right? We caused the loss of the habitats, right? We cause the spread of the zoonotic diseases because of our irresponsible use, irresponsible conduct. But we also can find the solutions. So the rise in interest for behavioral change has been very rampant. We do see that behavioral change is a critical aspect to addressing climate change. So when we say One Health, how does behavioral change come and be part of One Health? So this question I'm going to ask you all later. I want some solutions from the ground as well. We have some ideas, but I'm sure you have some ideas too, right? So we know that the reason we've been talking about climate change for many years, since it was a myth until it became a current, present reality. We know it's a reality now, right? And we know we are living in the midst of it. Of course, it's unfair to y'all, right? Y'all didn't cause this, isn't it? You all were not part of it, right? Not even a little bit? Not contributing to, Milo ice ikat tepi in that single-use plastic. God, right? When you still use polystyrene, God, right? But still, you can also be part of the solution, like I said, right? How? Through behavioral change. Not just you change your behavior, you make others change their behavior, right? So what is this person talking about, right? So when we reduce our demand for wildlife products as consumers, as business people, we are actually halting wildlife trade. So this is one example of behavioral change. So who is the one who is doing wildlife trade? It's not you, right? You are not in the jungles, isn't it? Any of you doing anything like that? No, nah? Not wise. But if you know someone, if you come across a network, or if you spread the voice, go to the local communities, like your lecturer went to the Semai community, go and teach them. Jangan bagi dia orang masuk. Don't let people come into your kawasan. Protect your animals, protect your area. Can you play a part? Can you get them to change their behavior? Why should I do it? I'm too busy with my life. So, this is the ignorance that we have got to break. I'm busy lah, ma'am, with my day-to-day. I have assignments to do. No time. Right? This is the common reason we all make. Right? Now, this is another behavior change campaign that I wanted to share. This was in Vietnam for the Greater Mekong. So it is called the Zero Wild Meat Challenge, launched in 2022. Why? Because people trade this wildlife for the meat, right? And what was done is that, of course, there's a lot of research done to implement this campaign, all right? So we show how when you actually eat the meat, you see at the background, what is that? What is that shadow? It's a bit of scare tactic also lah, but it worked, all right? How it worked? 18 million total impression on social media channels, 4,000 plus online pledges, very good. Zero wild meat, good coverages, press conferences, billboards, and interestingly, they increased the number of individuals surveyed who would definitely or probably not eat wild meat. 7% in Vietnam, 15% in Laos. Still a bit small, but that is an increase. Okay? So, this is one of it. So I want to share this last slide and end my presentation. Okay? I'm done. Don't worry. So, there are no passengers on spaceship Earth. Okay? We all have no space to go to Mars. that is not for us, right? I know you all also know that there is a spaceship in the making, right? Somewhere. Who's that guy? What's his name again? Ah, Elon Musk. But we don't have a space there. We are stuck here, right? We are the crew of this particular spaceship. Do we do our part as part of crew? Maybe lah. Maybe. I'll show you how you can do it after this. All right? Thank you very much.
Right, so thank you, Ms. Sugita, for your remarkable sharing. It was a very fun and engaging session. We learned how the WWF works in the conservation of endangered animals in Malaysia and in the prevention of disease transmission. All right, so moving on, last but not least, Ms. Sarah Isha is an ecology and biodiversity graduate from University Malaya. Currently, she consolidates her interest and experience in environment through content on climate change and sustainability through Youth Environmental Living Labs as a UNICEF Youth Climate Champion. So, Miss Sarah, the stage is yours.
Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to the Associate Professor Dr. Nur Yasmin, the coordinator of today's One Earth, One Health Forum, Climax, Mayohun, fellow speakers, fellow lecturers, and students of the faculty. How are you guys feeling this Friday morning? I'm gonna need more energy because I want to feed off it. So how are you guys feeling this Friday morning? Okay, it's great because I'm actually really excited to be here today to share a little bit about who I am, what I'm doing with UNICEF, as well as being in a room full of youths such as myself. And it's a really great and amazing energy, and we all should feed off each other on that. And I think it just dawned on me that I'm in a room full of future vets. So if I tell my cat that I'm in a room full of vets, I think my cat will probably freak out actually, because my cat is extremely afraid of vets. So I'm Sarah Isha. I'm a UNICEF Youth Climate Champion, and actually Mogesh is also part of a UNICEF Youth Climate Champion with me. And I want to say that I'm a biodiversity advocate. So it's going to be a short sharing session, mostly pictures, so bear with me. So in this slide, there's two colors, mostly blue and mostly green. So I'm going to talk about the greens first, because that is how I arrived to where I am today. So before I truly begin, I want to say that I learned a lot from the speakers sharing just now. From WWF, it kind of took me back to when I was working in conservation, because I did had like a short 2 year stint in conservation where I myself set up camera traps in the forest. So I was like, oh my God, I didn't intentionally want to have a flashback today, but I did, and it was a really good one. I also learned about Mayohun briefly, and I hope to learn more during the forum later, and I hope everybody here would learn more from that too. So the greens. Let's start with my background, my education background. So I learned ecology and biodiversity from University Malaya, and it was an amazing course because there was a lot of field work. And I'm not sure how veterinarians course module is, but I'm sure you guys have a lot of field work too. And I had a very tight knit course mates. So we spent time with just each other because we had to travel across Peninsular Malaysia to capture insects, learn about the local biodiversity, go to mangrove forests, and whatnot. So at the time when I was a student, I was so fascinated and low-key obsessed about trees, specifically dipterocarps. So what are dipterocarps? Dipterocarps are the big trees in our forests, such as chengal, jelutong. Basically, when you enter the forest, the biggest tree there, that's probably a dipterocarp, for sure. So it came in the right time when I started my internship with Tropical Rainforest Conservation and Research Center, also known as TRCRC, because I was able to work in a 100-acre land as an ecologist. So what I did here was set up camera traps, studied the phonology of dipterocarps, which was my fascination. So I was freaking out about I was able to do this. So what I did was sit in one corner with my binoculars and studied trees and figure out whether they're going to seed or not. Once they produce seeds, come in, swoop in, collect the seeds, and plant them for restoration for the site. So I thought I was the coolest person ever, okay? Because I was 21, I was taking care of 100-acre land. And then I had my own parang. That was my get up. On the far right, that was my get up. And I was working with orang asli. So it was a really good experience for me as a youth because working with orang asli is not easy because they have a few layers that you must go through in order to gain their trust because it is their area, it is their land, it's their backyard. So we need to gain their trust in order to help restore the land for their own good as well. So from that, I ventured into botany, further into botany. I joined Forest Research Institute Malaysia, also known as FRAME, and I worked in their herbarium. So what I did there was with a lot of desk work. So I took a lot of the old historical taxonomy specimens and just studied them. Apart from that, I worked with MyBiz. I'm not sure how accustomed veterinarian students use MyBiz, but it's basically our national biodiversity database. So if you want to know more about a certain species, our local species, then you can go to mybiz.gov.my and learn more about it if you're interested. So on MyBiz, I also wrote some newsletters, and it was kind of my first taste into creating advocacy material. But honestly speaking, everybody here is advocates because everybody here has social media accounts. So when I was an ecologist at TRSRC, my Instagram was booming because people wanted to know what I was doing. People wanted to know why I needed to set up camera traps. People wanted to know what's the cool insect that I posted on my story. So it was a really great knowledge sharing experience that everybody here actually has the power to do. So moving forward, after FRIM, I joined other organizations such as Urban Biodiversity Initiative. I had like a short stint with Rimba Ilmu, more on a voluntary basis or helping out how I can. And then I realized that, hey, I like doing social media posts. I like talking. Why not try advocacy? Really get into advocacy work. And actually, that was how I managed to be part of UNICEF Youth Climate Champion along with Mogesh, Fatin, and also Ideal. So I'll talk more about my role with UNICEF in the next slide. Just wanted to also include that. Has anybody here ever been to Taman Tugu? Yes? Okay, well, actually, I'm also part of Taman Tugu team, and I try to bring in biodiversity programs to Taman Tugu. So if you happen to be at Taman Tugu and if you happen to see me, don't be shy, just say hi. Okay, so moving on into the blues. We've talked about the greens, my background and all. Now we go into the blues, which is the UNICEF color, basically. I'm not saying Friday is Friday blues, but yeah. So as I mentioned before, my role in UNICEF Youth Climate Champion mostly revolves around advocacy. And particularly, it was my first role into advocacy, so I was like a normal youth, I wasn't sure how to truly begin my advocacy journey or really try to make an impact. Because I'm so young. I was thinking like how do I make an impact, right? How do I make meaningful impact? So then that was how Salam Alam was born. So Salam Alam is my birth child under Youth Environment Living Labs, or also known as YEL. You can check them out at Mari Kita Yell on Instagram. So Salam Alam is a short video series that I hope to inspire the youth to take the small but impactful steps towards mitigating climate change and slowly starting their sustainable living lifestyle. So from I try to make it fun, guys. Okay, I'm not trying. Okay, it's not gonna be so rigid. So I've done one on Barbie. So it's like thrifting to get your Barbie fits, going recycling, and from Salam Alam also, I was able to create Yale's first community engagement for the year, which was a Salam Alam art jam where we kind of came together and created protest boards. But disclaimer, no real protest happened. It was just an outlet for us to get creative together. It's important that I put that disclaimer there. So apart from that engagement, we also had a COP28 Youth Aspirations Dialogue with UNICEF, YCC's, UNDP Malaysia, as well as the EU delegation to Malaysia. And it was a really tight-knit but also very impactful session where we kind of get together and figure out what aspirations do Malaysian youths want to send off to COP28. But we can talk more deeply about it. Because believe it or not, we really have to believe it, your story matters, because everybody is actually a climate victim. Let's say, for example, when I was working in Semantan area, Bukit Damansara, I had to take the MRT. Whenever it rained heavily, the MRT will be so late. So I consider that everybody who was impacted by the scheduling problem is a victim of climate change. Because when it rains too heavily and where our systems aren't able to cope well enough to it, then it disrupts our whole livelihoods, right? Our whole lifestyle. So now I just really want to talk briefly about Youth Environment Living Labs. So Youth Environment Living Labs is the place to be, the place to go, the place to check out if you're unsure where to begin when it comes to taking climate action. So it's a partnership of youths and environmental organizations that you can be inspired, listening to stories, get to know other people's stories, whether they resonate with yours, or being more humbled by other people's stories, and also learn how to take action. So if you're interested in figuring out how do I take action, there are some organizations that are listed under YEL that you could potentially volunteer or also spend part of your time outside of your veterinarian course work and be part of the environmental movement. So I'll also be talking about YEL a little bit more deeply in my forum session later. And that's it from me on my sharing session. Yeah.
All right, so thank you, Miss Sarah, for your wonderful sharing. And yes, your experience is very cool, and I'm sure some of the students here were very inspired by your story. So, a big thank you to our speakers for sharing their expertise and perspective. Now, we move on to the heart of our event, the forum session. Before that, here is a little introduction to our moderator of the day. Mr. Mogesh actively engages with young people both locally and internationally, empowering them to become environmental leaders through talks, writing, and media engagements. He currently collaborates with UNICEF Malaysia as a Youth Climate Champions consultant and a working group member in the development of the National Planetary Health Action Plan by the Academy of Sciences Malaysia, and remains committed to fostering inclusive climate action, emphasizing collaboration between youth and government. Please join me in welcoming our moderator for the session, Mr. Mogesh. And what is a forum session without our distinguished invited speakers? So let's call upon on stage Dr. Nur Indah Ahmad, Senior Lecturer in Veterinary Public Health, University Putra, Malaysia. Ms. Sugita Kanyasilan, ESG Program Lead, WWF Malaysia. And Ms. Sarah Asia, Youth Climate Champion, UNICEF Malaysia. All right, so now it is time to hand over the stage to Mr. Mogesh.
Thank you very much, Yiga. Right, hello and a very good morning to everyone here. Now, I understand that we also have online participants. Do stay until the until the end of this event. We have exciting segments after this. Now, in this forum, we're trying to keep this chill. We will have a very santai conversation, right? How are we doing today? Good, good. Okay, right. So, brilliant. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Associate Professor Dr. Yasmin, Dr. Fazila lecturers, and my fellow colleagues. And speakers, thank you so much for spending your Friday morning with us today. Now, let's jump right into straight into our forum, right? Now we see and hear almost every day in the media, mostly reports on natural disasters like droughts, hurricanes, and storms happening in some part of the world, and it's getting more and more frequent, more intense, and I realize that people have started talking about all these natural disasters now more than before, right? At least in the past decade, right? And you know why? Because these things have already started happening in our backyards, right? It's affecting our lives. It's affecting our families, right? Of family and friends, our relatives, right? And as we're talking now today, right? Some parts of Malaysia, in fact, many parts of Malaysia, we are currently experiencing floods, right? And we are. I mean, especially now in Johor and Pahang, it's very badly affected at this point of time as we're talking. Kids can't go to school, parents can't go to work, and schools and houses get damaged, and the government of Malaysia has to spend billions of ringgit just to restore the local economy and bring back the livelihoods of the people back to the normal state, right? And this is just for floods, right? Each year, the government spends billions of ringgit. And also, when we talk on the global scale, right, Japan has also just very recently had one of the worst earthquakes, right? As we were all celebrating our New Year here, they were suffering. I have some statistics here. More than 4 million children in Asia do not have access to clean and safe water, and nearly 500 million children in this region are exposed to extreme high temperature. And reports have said that 700 people are dying of heat every single year. And this includes children and young people like us. And because of all these disasters, right, not only humans are affected, and we've heard from all of your presentations, right, but every other living organisms are also equally affected, including plants and animals. And we're here to talk about the intersectionality between how do we live together more harmoniously by also making sure that this only planet which we call home is going to be sustainable for the next hundreds and thousands of years to come, right? So, right. Now, the big question here is, are natural disasters natural, right? And are we doing enough to protect this planet that we call home? And what does the future look like for us and our children? And I hope we will be answering all these questions in the next 1 hour. And with our brilliant speakers here, starting from my left, Dr. Norinda, Sugita from WWF, and Sarah from UNICEF Malaysia. Thank you so much again for spending your time with us. Now, the general theme of this segment, I suppose you all must have seen the posters, youth action in animal conservation and zoonotic disease prevention. Now, before I forget, we will have a question and answer session after this. So keep your questions coming. If you're online participants, you're watching this online, you can put your questions in the chat box or the comment section on YouTube. And if you're here physically present in this hall, you all can keep questions and then you can raise your hands afterwards during the Q&A session. Now, to kick things off, right, let's start with the fundamental question. And briefly, I'd like to hear from all the speakers. What does One Health mean to you? And how important is this concept in today's world? Maybe you can start with Dr. Indah, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. So yes, One Health, if you were to ask me how I perceive it, it's everything. So you put aside the theory, I mean, the link, acknowledging the link between humans, animals, and the environment, ecosystems. It's actually what we are, because I perceive it as we are already living in a One Health um, environment situation whereby every day, for example, if you wake up, you've got cat, dogs, that itself has a one health relationship because you would go and go and pet your cats and dogs. That itself, it calms you down, it enhances your mood, improves your mental health, for example. So every single thing that we do has is already linked there. It's one health. It's just acknowledging it, in a more scientific way when people talk about it as a concept. And then, yeah, when I talk about translating concept to approach is also another thing because, okay, now you know the link, you acknowledge the link, but then so what? So that's where all the advocacy, all the action comes into place. So I think, yeah, briefly, that's what I would say. Yeah.
Thank you. That was a good start. Right, Sigita, please.
Um, at WWF, one of the core concepts that we propagate is human living in harmony with nature. I think for me, that could probably be the closest definition of One Health, where we're all interdependent. We are part of this ecosystem. We humans are no superior than the animals. We are all a species in this ecosystem, and we have an interdependency on each other, and if that can be harmony within this interdependency, then we can achieve greater One Health. Yeah.
Okay, to me, One Earth, One Health. I really like what your dean said earlier today. He said, One Earth, One Health, not one person. And I think that's very important because humans in general, we're very social beings. We need each other. We need to talk to each other. We need to work with each other towards working for a better future for the future generation. And to me, in a way, One Earth, One Health, we all need to be together in this one ecology because everything we do is actually a chain reaction of one another.
Right, thank you. Just a follow-up question to Sarah. Since that you started talking about people already, right? I'm just gonna go off the format now. See, people are more aware than before now, but not many people think that environment and climate change is at the highest priority. How do we make them understand that as simple as, examples that were given earlier, as simple as LRT, right? Um, LRT being late and how is that impacted by climate? So how do you make this message goes across different communities and different layers of the society? Maybe you can quickly share.
Okay, for me, definitely. Thank you for the question, by the way. Top of my list, top of my head, definitely social media. Because it's such an empowering tool that you can really reach the masses when you use advocacy and awareness strategies. But at the same time, we must check our privilege. Not everybody has a social media account or has a reliable internet connection that they're able to access our advocacy materials. So yes, for me, definitely social media is number one. It also goes into what kind of awareness and advocacy strategies you have. So then comes to my second point, which is storytelling. So what Mogesh picked up on is my LRT experience. That's just the surface level. Different people experience different kinds of climate change experiences that can be varying levels of trauma for them. For example, kids, we talk about children. Children are disproportionately affected when it comes to climate change. Because let's say, for example, we have Banjir, they can't go to school, they can't see their friends, they don't get an education. So it impacts their future. So when it comes to storytelling, we tap into what have they gone through, and we figure out how we can disseminate that to people who also resonate with what they're going through. So yeah. So one, social media, two, storytelling, and everybody has a story to tell.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Sorry for putting you on the spot, by the way. Right. Dr. Inda, now as a senior lecturer in public health, and you're also a public health specialist, working on zoonotic diseases, working with the community, where do you actually see youth can play a part, can play a role within the work that you're doing? More than just veterinary students, but as ordinary youth, as ordinary young person like myself? How do I get involved in the kind of work that you're doing? How can we contribute to the cause?
Yes, so that's a great question. So I am part of the One Health Student Club UPM advisor. So that's, I think, a good start because when you kind of like put educating and whatnot just in the silo of in education system, so it's just these students who get exposed to that. So what I try to tell the students, the members of One Health Student Club, for example, is for them to work together with those from the faculty next door to start with, and then to reach out to everyone who might be interested, because we have to remember that it's not just the vets, the world does not revolve around just us when you are in this faculty. So I would oftentimes remind them to, when they are running activities and whatnot, incorporate as much as possible students from outside of the faculty, because definitely you will benefit more, you will learn more, you will see more people, you will get to forge new friendships, and then from there on it comes in naturally. So that's mainly the main key that I would like to share with students from every batch is, just collaborate, work together with students from other faculties to begin with.
Absolutely. Thanks, Doctor. Networking and collaboration, right? Now, Sugita, maybe if you can share a little bit, because I understand that your background is on education for sustainable development, ESD. Could you tell us a little bit about ESD and the kind of work that you do around ESD, and how important is youth in education for sustainable development? Are we doing enough? Is the current national curriculum serving justice to what we're experiencing currently in today's world?
Thank you for your question, Mogesh. Actually, you asked this question in a very timely manner because I just spent a day this week in the Ministry of Education. So part of our strategy at WWF is actually to ensure we can strengthen the national education system where ESD is concerned. I'm happy to report that MOE has been very open with our suggestions. We are, as you all are maybe aware, that our national curriculum is going through a curriculum review process. We are working towards getting a new curriculum out in year 2027. Oh, so long more to come, huh? But the work is quite extensive. Imagine all standards, all forms, ensuring that we not only have elements of ESD, but also the SDGs incorporated into the curriculum so that young people can be made aware of the issues that we are dealing with. It's no more a myth, as I said just now, it's a reality, like how Mogesh started. The issues, climate issues and natural disasters are become like a new norm for us, right? So if we believe education is definitely the core component in ensuring more people can come on board into this conversation, more people can take action as part of this conversation. So national education wise, we're also trying to use project-based learning to get more, the younger they are and the more involved they are in such projects, we believe the greater the exposure is, right? So that's one of those things. Also, we have been working very closely with the co-curricular bodies, Scouts Malaysia being one of them, the Malaysian Red Cross Society being another. We're trying very hard to embed these elements into the co-curricular activities as well, to ensure that they're not only learning in a formal way, but also in an informal way. So these are some of the ongoing initiatives. If you, coming back to your question, is it enough? I would say we can still do better. We still need to do more. And I think it's interesting because all three speakers come from different backgrounds. Dr. Indah is talking about a higher education level. You're speaking about a young adult level, and I'm speaking about preschool and up to tertiary. So we are all, three of us are playing our part, and there are so many combination of these three out there as well who are playing a part. And of course, I think the people in this room are also playing a part in one way or another. Or if you're not already, I hope you're inspired to play a part in the future.
Thank you. Now, Sarah, youths are not just the victims of climate change, but we are also valuable contributors to making sure that the future that we're going to live in and the world that we will be living in the future is safe, healthy, and sustainable. Um, Now, we have academic leaders here. We have lecturers. We have soon to be veterinary medicine doctors, clinicians. And we may have policymakers watching us. What would you like to say to them as to how can they collaborate with the young people within this environmental space?
Okay, so before I begin my answer, I just want to ask the members of the hall, as a youth, aren't you angry? No? A little bit about how that we're living in a changing climate. Aren't you a little angry that all the previous generations, all the kerakusan in a way that they were with this world that we now living in changing climate, and it is postulated to be more intense in the coming years, by the way. So we may, as Malaysians, tropical country, we may be experiencing more robust and confusing weather patterns. Yeah, so what do I want to say to the other stakeholders? Can't you just give us an in? Give us an in into the decision-making processes. Give us an in into funding opportunities. Let us show you that youth can really make a difference if you give us the platform and allow us to do what we can do. And I just want to add in one amazing point. So actually my fellow youth climate champions, along with Mogesh, Aidil and Fatin, so we're actually working on the Children and Youth Council on Climate Change. So I have to drop that. Children and Youth Council on Climate Change, which is going to be a platform for children and youths to share ideas and also penetrate decision-making processes. So in a way, if decision makers won't let us in, we're going to penetrate it anyway because we're strength in numbers, and with social media, more youths are being aware. More youths are being aggressive about what we want for the future. So decision makers, are you listening?
Thank you, Sarah. Now, just if I can add on a little bit from your point, it's important for us to be engaged, but also meaningfully engaged, and to have a seat at the table while also making an impact at the grassroots. Now, Dr. Indah, now this question, I really wanna hear from you yourself. I mean, really, because this has already been, I've been thinking about this question a lot. Now, there's a growing concern around zoonotic diseases, and most probably COVID-19 is also one of zoonosis. And how, I mean, now the question that I'd like to impose on you would be, are there chances of another pandemic? And how do you see COVID-19 have already changed the way we look at zoonotic diseases, and how are we already responding to it now? And if not, how should we be responding?
So that's a very interesting yet very tough question. So your first question was, will there be another pandemic? So if you were to ask any epidemiologists, the answer would be there will not be an absolute zero. So the chances will still be there, provided that we do not change. There's no change in our management process, for example, because we only react whenever an outbreak occurs. We would only, then it's going to be too late. The outbreak has occurred, the disease has spread, and so we are only trying to catch up downstream. So, which is why it's very important for us to go against the tide, try to manage to identify risk factors upstream. So that's why what both of you are doing, increasing awareness, communicating, reaching out to those communities. So when you are doing that, you are able to grasp the idea of, okay, there might be some risk in there here, or there are good things, for example, indigenous knowledge. So what they have been doing so far is very, very good, amazing, because they live happily, healthily in their natural environment. So there must be something right that they have been doing so far. I mean, it's oftentimes when we hear about outbreaks, it occurs in probably like urban dwellers, more like in a more because of human encroachment towards there, not from, for example, indigenous communities and whatnot. So if you were to ask me, for so long as there would be these changes that we are still seeing and living pre-COVID, the answer would not be zero. It would be more than one chances of another pandemic if we do not do any substantial changes to the way we live.
Making a difference today, and that was a very safe answer. Thank you. No, Sugita, maybe if you can. Now, I'm going to go back to one of my questions earlier when I started, right? Are natural disasters actually natural? And we know that climate change, no, environmental, natural disasters will happen, but we have been making it more intense. We have been causing, through our developments and human activities, we have been making it to happen more frequently. We also just experience heat waves. We have floods happening each year, every year. Many parts of Malaysia, lives are affected. And how do you see this delicate connection between development and environmental conservation? And within the workspace that you have, I'm sure you would be, coming across many different challenges dealing with stakeholders who would prioritize developments in rural areas. How do you deal with this? And what are your thoughts?
Thank you for that question, Mukesh. Um, it's a chicken and egg situation, right? We cannot not develop. We need to keep developing, right? We are still a developing nation, right? But at the same time, while we develop, we cannot lose out and cause more climate issues than we are already facing. It's already at our backyard, right? Some of us are already feeling, some of us may have already been a victim to a natural disaster. For example, the Batangkali landslide. A group of teachers and their family went for a family day and they ended up losing their lives, losing their family members in what would have seemed like a normal weekend excursion for some of us, right? And Batangkali is not too far off from KL, yeah? It's probably one of those spots 1 hour away, kind of touristy destinations that any of us could pick to go. So what I'm trying to say is that we could have been there, any of us. We could have been the one who had lost our lives. So when it comes to this, I think what is most important is to be responsible in our conduct. So I'll give you an example of how we are doing it through our work at WWF. So we have a large amount of conservation efforts happening in East Malaysia, Sabah Sarawak, as well as Peninsula. I'll talk about East Malaysia. So you are probably well aware that a lot of agricultural activities, especially palm oil plantation, takes place in Sabah and Sarawak. So what we've been doing quite successfully is working together with palm oil plantations, with the RSPO, to ensure that palm oil production is done more sustainably, to ensure that when they deforest, reforestation plans are already in place. And we also try to ensure that those who are not producing sustainably are reprimanded. And in the process of doing so, we also get the palm oil planters, plantations, companies to actually take charge of the development of the socio-economic development of the community. I'll give you an example of this particular company called Brumas that we have been working with. So they manage this palm oil plantation in the area of Tawau, the Kalabakan forest. So I had a first-hand experience last year where I got to visit our elephant corridor. We call it an elephant wildlife corridor, 14 kilometers of land which has been zoned for wildlife conservation. thanks to the help of these developers, yeah, who have joined hands with us to ensure that while they do develop the land around, they also preserve this land for the as a habitat for the species who have been there longer than any of us have been. So this is one example. So the kind of projects that we are doing, even through our marine, through in Terengganu, in what do you call this? Oh, the name skips my mind. What is that famous marine spot in Sabah where you go and see the corals? Sampurna. Yeah, so our work there involves educating the community, educating the local councils, the municipals to ensure that even if you produce seafood, you sustainably produce the seafood. So while we develop ourselves, while we progress, we also preserve. And I like to quote Dr. Inda's statement just now about how the original people of the land know how to do it, and they've been doing it right for a long time. In fact, there are a lot of cases nowadays of the traditional knowledge being brought back to become more sustainable, especially in fisheries, in forest development and whatnot. So I think SDG 17, yeah, collaboration and partnerships is the biggest thing. We have all got to come together to combat climate change, right? It's not a conversation that we can have separately anymore. So the more we come together, the more we find solutions together, the more we can mitigate climate change.
Right. Very well said. Um, now, Sarah, let's hear maybe on the scope of youth action, right? Now, we have young people in this room and a lot of young people who are watching us online. Um, now, even when I started getting into this space, I had this thought of like, I mean, by just me reducing waste and by just me doing things alone, how is it going to make a big impact to the world? What does it mean to the world when it's just me who's making a difference? And what do you have to say about this and to people who think this way? I've slowly started to think differently, but maybe we can hear some wise words from you for the young people who are attending us.
Hi, young people. So I think I like this question, by the way. So I would want to draw from my personal experience when I was a uni student myself. So that was like a real youth in youth, putting the youth in youth as a university student. And I realized that just because I was in ecology and biodiversity, so my whole course was about living sustainably, eating sustainably, making the right environmental choices. I realized that it's important to be very, very kind to other people and yourself, because everybody is making their own progress towards living sustainably or learning about the environmental changes, learning about our biodiversity, and yeah, everybody has their own track, right? So in university, there were some people who were a little bit more aggressive when it comes to, let's take the use of straws, for example. And they would actually berate people. Like, why would you use a straw? Didn't you see that video of a turtle? You know, everybody has seen the video of the turtle. And make you feel so small and so defeated and so awful just because you used a straw that one time. And I'm sure we did not use a straw just one time, but sometimes out of a habit, right, it has inculcated into becoming a habit to use a straw. And we need to unlearn that. And unlearning habits take time. So in a way, I just want to say that if you're going through a change in your habits right now, whether it's straws, whether it's bringing your own bekas to go tapau, or whether it's learning about the environment, whether it's trying to fit your time to go volunteer for environmental organizations, do it in your own time, do it in your own pace, and be kind to yourself. Even if it takes days, weeks, months, years, it's okay to take time. Yeah.
Thank you. Um, Dr. Inda, just very quickly before we wrap this session. Now, we've seen and heard your presentation on how you engage with the community, and we've been hearing a lot of jargons around this space, right? We have the triple planetary crisis, and we just, I think just very recently there was a report on how we've breached 6 out of 9 planetary boundaries. And I myself am part of the National Planetary Health Action Plan development with Academy Sciences Malaysia. It's one of the working group member. And we discuss a lot about how do we engage with the people more effectively, right? And with the young people here, in your experience, what are some challenges that you've experienced, and how do you think, and how have you, what have you done in your advocacy work to engage with people more effectively and to also address these challenges that you've experienced in your work?
Okay, thank you. That's a very good question as well. So, taking up from what Sarah mentioned just now, in with regards to not berating people. So, when you try to reach out, um, uh, it's very important to realize that whatever that you say does not comes across as condescending, because that would just basically put people off. So, with regards to the question, challenges. So I have sit in few meetings, when they talk about the ministry level, for example. Okay, so when they have this collaborative interministerial meetings, at moments, you can't help but imagine that you're actually watching a tennis match or a badminton match. It's like sometimes the fault is being, shifted from one to the other. Or, that's not my role. That doesn't fall under us. So that's quite common, and that's quite, I mean, I was young during that time. So it's quite painful to see that those who are, up until, at a mature level, for example, could not be on the same page, could not agree to disagree respectfully. So I take that as, like, okay, this is one very important thing, communication skills, acknowledging people with empathy. When you are trying to voice out your opinion, um, do digest it for a while, a bit, and then try to discuss in a more mature vibe and environment, instead of just blame shifting that and in that. So it will not be a productive meeting anyway. So I think uh, before we are able to see that, so that's why we are beginning to incorporate One Health core competencies, especially communication skills within the students through our, for example, Mindhood-led activities between students, especially from vet, animal, and ecosystem environmental related courses. So during those kind of activities, it comes in naturally. First of all, ice breaking. It's very difficult for students to, like, oh, that's not my friend. I don't know them, so I don't want to sit beside them. And then after one night, for example, if you were stuck on a houseboat, or if you went for camping, for example, you would just become like BFFs. Betul tak? Yeah, that guy is like nodding. So yeah, he's lived through it. So I think, and then you'll be, it comes naturally. Okay, but you have to overcome the borders of, having this unconscious bias or pre-thoughts that, it's going to be difficult. So those are the kind of things. So try to come out of the silo, reach out your hands to people. I am an introvert, I would say, so it's very difficult for me to begin any conversation, for example, in social setting. But then again, you would be able, as you mentioned just now, start in small changes, but it's sustainable, okay? Right, instead of just drastically change. So you have to take into consideration not just what you are trying to say, but also how people would take in and perceive, and then balance it out. Yeah.
Thank you. Now, I mean, we have very limited time here. To round up our discussion, let's hear some final words. To what would you like to say to our audience who are watching us, especially the young people? And maybe Dr. Indah, back to you. As an academician, what would you like to see change in at least the next 10 years before we reach 2030? And what would you like to see from the young people who are here?
In the next decade, I would like to see, a future where the students would be, passionate, self-driven, doing and taking action based on what they believe, because we have, for example, revising curriculum at the school level, at university level as well, so making it more relevant and achievable and more tangible instead of aiming for something that is just way too high in the sky, for example. So hopefully, whatever that we have left you with, for example, in terms of the teaching inside the classroom, is not just left stored inside your locker, inside your drawer, and then just throw it away. Make it a practice, make it a habit, because when it comes naturally from you, your passion, you will not feel forced, and then that would lead to a more natural action after that. So I think for the students today, hopefully you will remember this moment, 1 decade afterwards, and hopefully whatever that you have learned today would be applicable in all sorts of not just work, but aspects of your life. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Indah. Sugita, maybe you can quickly wrap up with saying how a collective action as the global society can work together to make sure that we live a sustainable world. And to also address, I think, quoting from what you said earlier in your presentation, that climate change also heavily affects socioeconomic and values within the society. And how do you think that we can play a part, and especially for the for the young people that are here?
Okay, so I have two things to share. Number one is I want to remind all of you, including us, we all have three superpowers. Gee, superpowers, what power can I have? I'm an average citizen of this earth. Number one, power is a consumer. In everything you consume, you can make a better choice. Right? How do you start? You start by reading the labels. Look at if the product is sustainably produced. Opt for more eco-friendly options. Right? I know eco-friendly can be more expensive. Right? So this one we need to advocate for the government to, come on board and ensure sustainable products are not as expensive. This is very important. Okay, second superpower. This one, very good power because it involves money. Ching, 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 right? Power is an investor. I got no money lah. In my bank balance pun hampir-hampir kosong. PT-PTN belum masuk lagi. But you will become an investor. You will put money into your banks. You will be working soon. You will be making a choice to buy a property, to buy a car, where you choose to invest. Choose a bank that has sustainable finance. Pick companies that are actually sustainable in their practices. This is your power, collectively. If all of you choose to invest in those who are sustainable, those who are less sustainable will have to wake up. Third superpower, last superpower, most important superpower, power as a voter. Who you bring in as an office bearer is very important, right? Pick those who put sustainability as an important agenda, and not just they put it as a manifesto, but they walk the talk. Go and ask your local MP, what are you doing? Hey, you can ask, you're a voter. You can ask your local MP, what can we do for this kawasan? Kita selalu kena banjir, apa kami orang muda boleh buat? You can ask that question, what we as youth can do for our area. You don't need to go globally or nationwide. Go to your own backyard. If every youth go back to their kampung and take care of their kampung, all the kampungs will be fine. Right? We all come from kampungs to a certain extent. I also come from kampung. Right? From a far kampung in Kelantan. Okay. Coming back to your question. So collectively you understand if it is an individual action, but if all of us do it, it becomes a major collective action. All right? Very, very important. What was the other question you asked, Mukesh?
So basically, how can the young people, basically be part of the work?
So, WWF is actively doing a lot of work for environmental conservation. We, year in, year out, go into universities like UPM, launch programs, support these programs that we launch, be part of the bigger voice. We have Earth Hour coming up in March. Make a pledge of your own time. Dedicate one of your hour for Earth Hour. Use the power of social media, like what Sarah highlighted. Go out there and not just practice for yourselves. Tell people that, hey, this year I'm opting to not use plastic straws at all. What are you going to do? Put a shout out to your friends and get them to pledge. Believe me, every little action, when put together, forms a fabric of larger action. Right? As young people, I tell you, you have the power that no one else has. Your power is a power to reckon. I hope you use that power wisely. Thank you.
Thank you. Very strong. Start small, start local, right? Sarah, as a young person yourself, as a youth, right? And to our friends here and our friends who are watching us online, what would you like to say to them? Friendly advice.
Um, my friendly advice to those who are here and those who are listening in is to get to know yourself. Tiba kan? Well, actually, get to know yourself helps because you might feel, I'm a veterinarian student based on the hall right now. I'm a veterinarian student. What does this kind of have to do if I want to go volunteer at, let's say, trail making? Why would I want to do that, right? So by getting to know yourself, you're able to kind of narrow your interests. What do you really enjoy doing? Or what are you passionate about? Or what do you want to learn from these organizations that you're able to narrow down? Just quickly as use myself as an example, I love hiking and exploring. Sometimes I do it alone. At one point, it got pretty sad going hiking alone. So I wanted to find my own community. And that's when I found Mowgli Venture. It is a youth-led ecotourism group fronted by my friend Kovin and his friends. And they strive to find the best waterfalls. So all they do is hike, find the best waterfalls, take photos, and do some jumping in the waterfalls. Anyway, finding my community through Mowgli Venture was amazing because they're not just doing ecotourism. What they're doing is propagating an appreciation towards nature. So when more people join in on their trips, they get to be involved in all the hikes and learn about nature more. And not just that, I also want to highlight that one of their destinations is Pulau Kapas, and I personally have been on this trip. And over 11 weekends of their trips to Pulau Kapas, they managed to collect 460 kilograms of trash from the beach cleanup. That's a lot of trash. That is a trashy amount of trash, actually. So what I'm trying to say is they started off doing what they love to do, which is hiking, exploring, and they did it in a way where they did beach cleanup just because they enjoy being in nature and they want to preserve it, they want to beautify it. So that can be you too. Figure out what you love to do or your passion and start from there. And if there's no other outlet that you could kind of come in, why not start your own movement? It doesn't have to be big. It can be something localized between you and your friends, or you and your housemate, or you and your neighborhood. Yeah, so that would be my friendly lies. Get to know yourself.
Thank you, Sarah. Very powerful. Um, right. I think we're going to wrap up this forum. I really would like to have this conversation more in the future. Very impactful. Now, I think very quickly, let's try to get as many questions as we can, probably from the physical venue first. Let's see if there's any hands up. Anyone wants to ask anything to our brilliant speakers here? Okay. Right. So you can keep thinking. So we'll go to the online audiences. So we have a couple of questions here. Now, one of them asked, I think this is a youth from Pakistan. So he asked, why isn't the government doing enough in getting messages like this across? Not doing enough. not that they're not doing at all, but not doing enough to make sure that it reaches the grassroots and the community who are actually experiencing things. And what can we do to encourage the decision makers and the government agencies to sort of intensify their efforts? Maybe we can hear from Sugita, from WWF, what kind of efforts?
Well, I wouldn't say the government is not doing anything at all. I think in the past couple of years, we are all in the same sphere. We see more and more efforts, initiatives being formed to actually mitigate, because this backyard problem is not something we can ignore anymore, right? We know that if we don't do something about it, it's going to milk us dry, so to speak. Yeah, we are spending money to mitigate, not mitigate. We are spending money to actually address the aftermath of issues. A lot of money is being spent for it. So I always believe when it comes down to dollars and cents, people's eyes and ears open up, right? I think the moment the implications translate into dollars and cents, whether it's the government or the private sector or whichever sector we're talking about, even for us, when it comes to our own pockets, we start becoming more mindful. So I think the government has already started taking measures. Personally, for me, seeing it at of education, how they themselves are becoming more involved and keen to embed environmental studies as part of the national curriculum. That itself sends a message that we are in dire need to address things. Yeah, so I think that definitely is a good sign, right? But this, how do we make government do more work? Use your voice. The voice is a strong voice, whether anywhere in the world, even in Pakistan, use your voice as a voter. Demand for climate justice. This is my advice to all.
Thank you. And thank you for mentioning about mitigation. Dr. Narinda, so we have a question from a youth from Sri Lanka who've asked that at this point of time, we're mostly talking about mitigation, climate mitigation efforts. We're not doing much on adaptation. So maybe you could just briefly explain what is mitigation and what is adaptation to climate change, and what should we be doing, especially vulnerable countries like us, and especially archipelagic countries like Malaysia, like Philippines, and many other countries, which has, especially the small island developing states, sits. What else can they do to adapt to climate change impacts? So let's start with very simple definition on climate change mitigation and adaptation, and then what can the government or as the ordinary people can do.
Okay, so I think this is a question that I would best be addressed by somebody who's working more in the environmental. But what I can say from somebody who's been working in an animal health background, in terms of mitigation and adaptation. So mitigation is whereby you are trying to identify and reduce as much as possible whatever repercussions that would occur later on, preventive measures, okay? Whereas adaptation, the thing has happened. For example, climate change is happening right now, we're living in present, an increase in 1 to 2 degrees Celsius. So in terms of adapting, now that the thing has happened, so what would be the smartest way? What would be the most cost-efficient way? The most practical way in terms of trying to survive, trying to live, but also at the same time, if you are able to halt whatever determinant leading to an even more higher increase in global temperature, for example. So for those who are working in the animal industry, for example, you can make a difference if you are talking about greenhouse gas emissions from coming in from ruminant industry, for example. So that's one of the aspect to make it more relatable or relevant to those inside this room. So what is that? Try to find out why is it important, and then how is it relevant to climate change, and then what can you do working. Consider the type of feed that you are feeding these cattle, livestock, for example, and then is there any more nature-friendly, greener alternatives that you can start to apply to feed. So yeah, and then waste management and whatnot. So we have to be more aware of whatever that is happening and not just think about prescribing medicines just and then your animals healthy. Oh, that's my job done. Okay, but beyond that. Okay.
Thank you, Doctor. Sarah, maybe if you want to take up that question as well, how do we adapt to the impacts of climate change now that we're seeing more frequent disasters happening, even in the Malaysia context, that we've seen, floods, the landslides and whatnot. And it's expected that, one of the reports that I read, by 2050, some parts of Malaysia will be under the water. How do you see that us as young people can, probably try to take an action towards, one, pushing the government to start taking action on adaptation strategies, and also just a quick heads up, Malaysia and the Malaysian government is coming up with a national adaptation strategy. What would you like to see in this strategy, and what can us as young people do to contribute?
Okay, so maybe I'll speak from a perspective of a young person first. How could we actually be part of the climate action when it comes to climate adaptation, right? So it's definitely the time where we need to be a little bit more aggressive when it comes to what we're doing to this planet. As mentioned, maybe start with a pledge of not using a straw this year. But don't beat yourself up if you accidentally use a straw. That's important because you need to be kind and empathetic to yourself, because then you won't start the loop all over again. So start small individually, and then we go aggressive when it comes to pushing the government. we really, because when it comes to us as a youth, most often all we could really do is advocate, awareness, and push. And then the government will need to step in and then take our recommendations as youth, and also by other organizations such as WWF and MNS, for example, and really consolidate them. And that is what I hope to see in the national adaptation strategy. Like how inclusive is it going to be with regards to the inclusion of youths, the inclusion of grassroots movements, the inclusion of academia, because it is an interdisciplinary approach. Anything is actually an interdisciplinary approach. When we talk about climate change, it is the one thing that we really need everybody's heads together. So in the national adaptation strategy, I personally hope that there is pockets of people, organizations, youths that have a say in the coming future.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Now, do we have any questions from the audience here? Oh, brilliant. We have two hands. Let's give that gentleman first, and then I'll get to you. Sorry, brother, maybe if you can introduce yourself first, your name, which year, and to whom are you posing this question to?
Okay, hello, can everyone hear me? Testing. Okay, my name is Zul Amal Fahmi, and I'm from final year, so I'm representing my final year students lah. So this is a generalized questions to all of the members. So as we learned One Health, we learned that it was very important to like foster this kind of like partnerships between all of these organizations. So a question to everyone is basically what role as us as youth and also as fellow so-called will be graduating vets that we can play in facilitating partnerships between youth-led organizations, international organizations, and government organizations. Maybe like everyone has a different answer in mind, but I would like to listen to everyone's input on this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sorry, your name is?
Zul.
Thank you, Zul. I think we can go to our next question. We'll take about 3 questions from the audience and then we'll get to the panel. Right.
Uh, yes.
I think perhaps, girl, sorry, Kaishin, yes. Maybe if you want to stand next to the mic, so yeah.
Alright, okay. So my name is Muhammad Farhan, and I'm from DVM5, the last year. So my final year. Okay. Sorry. So in this current capitalist world where profit-driven companies, for example, industrials and also pharmaceuticals, are greenwashing and promoting to spend on their products and production process that are apparently climate friendly. So from Ms. Sugita's point, saying that we later will have our own money to invest with. So my question is, like, how do we know where to invest or which companies to choose in order to promote efforts of reversing global warming and climate change? How do we combat the controversies of these profit-driven efforts masked by very superficial and ingenuine advertising for global warming and climate change and efforts? So that's my question. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Kaishin, do you want to go next?
Hi, I'm Kaishin. So my question is, as a youth, actually, we are actually really passionate in engaging the conservation activities. However, we learn that the income is actually not as encouraging, especially for us youth lah, that we need to be financially sustainable for a lot of things. So how to address this?
Thank you, Kaishin, for the question. Thanks, everyone, for the questions. Brilliant questions. Any taker for the first one?
Maybe you can start with the first one.
Sure.
Zul, thank you for your question. I think it's something about partnerships, right? Okay, partnerships. Nowadays, youths are so lucky because there are a lot of opportunities opened up for youths, whether it is in the corporate sector, whether it's in academia, whether it's in organizations, that they go out and seek youths to be appointed to front their sustainability or environmental strategies. A lot of corporations are doing that now, especially. So that is one, whether or not you would love to take up on these roles, but they might be misaligned with veterinary, because then you'll definitely go into corporate sector, which I'm not sure if that's something that you like to do. Apart from that, partnerships with peers, with other youths, other grassroots movements. Figure out whether you could really partner up with other veterinarian students from other universities or even other countries. See how you can synergize and facilitate knowledge sharing with these other veterinarian students. And partnerships can really go so many ways. You could even partner with small. I think Dr. Indah mentioned a lot of some of the veterinary students are working with smallholder farms. That's already a partnership right there, and you're already partnering with them without even graduating yet. So once after your graduation, there are more opportunities for you. You'll just have to, one, get to know yourself to filter out what actually that you're looking for when it comes to partnership opportunities or also for your career. Yeah, so I hope, Zul, that answers your question. And yeah, okay, good, great.
Right. And also, if you're interested, get in touch with Sarah, Sugita, Dr. Indah, want to know more about their work and
Yeah, actually,
network.
yeah, I should rep Youth Environment Living Labs. Yeah, thank you for the reminder. Anyways, remember I said Youth Environment Living Labs or Mari Kita Yell on Instagram? Well, give us a follow, and we're always open to ideas. Maybe you want to do, hey, Mari Kita Yell seems like they're not doing so much advocacy on like zoonotic diseases. I have some ideas. Drop us a DM. We see how we can incorporate your ideas into our advocacy strategies. And not just that, as I mentioned before, we also have organizations that are open for volunteering opportunities or even fellowships that maybe during your semester break you could kind of come in, step in, try out whether this space is the right fit for you or just something for you to try out. Yeah. So, Mari Kita Yell, Instagram.
Thanks, Sarah. Any takers for the second question? I really like this on greenwashing.
Yeah, okay, I do agree with you. We are seeing um, a growth in the number of organizations who are engaging with greenwashing activities. So, just for your awareness, Bursa Malaysia has set a rule that all companies have got to produce their sustainability report. I know it's a bit techy to read these reports. As a consumer, as an individual living in this country, you can take charge to understand about these brands and go and look into their sustainability charter. Keep a lookout on what they're doing. Be the eyes and ears. Always, you can play that part. You are on the social space, and if you see something go wrong, call them out. All right. As I have repeatedly said, use your voice, right? Call them out. And this is not a new thing altogether. A lot of young people are playing a very active role in calling out corporations. And I think that's putting them at the edge, and they're becoming more mindful about these greenwashing activities, which means it's working, which means you need to do it more. All right? Use your voice, use the power of social media to bring out practices that are not so good in nature, that are not actually representing sustainable work. To answer a little bit of what Kaichin asked, so organizations like Yale as well as WWF, we are actively providing grants and funding to young people who want to be actively involved in environmental conservation, animal conservation per se. Reach out to us. We'll have our emails shared out after this. If you have a project that you want to work together, you want to collaborate with us, we'll be happy to speak with you, right? Remember, partnerships is not about how small you are or how big we are. It's about finding a common ground of alignment. If we can work to a mutual purpose, any partnership can be formed, regardless of who you are.
Thank you. Right. Dr. India, very briefly, maybe on the third question as an academician yourself, how do you see, youths want to take action, they want to get into the space, but because they also feel that it does not give as much monetary value to them, right? So how do you address this?
Yeah, money is motivation. um, with regards to, so in terms of, in the line of Southeast Asia One Health University Network, for example, do look out for, again, there might be from time to time calls for internship, sponsorship, small grants, start from there. And then do actively, you have social media, it's in your hands. Everything, the power is in your hands, on your fingers. So don't be shy to follow those foundations. For example, Simon Darby working with TCRC. Yeah. So I think One House Student Club did an activity last year with them. So these foundations, corporate companies, they do open up opportunities. Or, I mean, worst case scenario, you can just knock on the door, drop an email, drop a DM on their social media asking, don't be shy. So I think, and then the other is that just in terms of partnership, right? So as youth, so I know that some of you are very artsy person, are very cultural person. So some of you might be dancers as well, I know. You can actually translate or incorporate those passion and then translate it into increasing the awareness and advocate for One Health, for One Earth, for zoonotic diseases. You can have even, in the UK, they have this musical called on AMR, antimicrobial resistance. So use that, because when you're driven by passion, that would be really, really wonderful. And you can actually reach out to potential funders as well who might pick it up, so yeah.
Thank you so much. See, there's so many organizations out there who could help you, and you could help them. We also have Malaysian Youth Delegation. We have Yale. We have WWF Youth Network. We also have My Hoon, right? And Climax. Just a quick plug-in. Give us a follow. We just launched. We are looking forward to have more members and to have your voices represented. Possibly at the ministerial level and in the Children and Youth Council that Sarah just mentioned. Now, as we wrap up today, right, let's not forget our work starts here. Our work starts today. Take these ideas and these suggestions and brilliant opinions and perspectives. Remember, this is not just another gathering, but it's the day that we decided to do things differently, right? I'd like to just close this off with a very quick quote. Only when the well is dry, we know the worth of water. And only when our houses are damaged, we know the worth of our planet. But it's not too late. It's about what we do differently today that is going to decide our future. With that, thank you very much, everyone. Have a great day. Thank you, speakers. Thank you.
All right, so coming back to me again. From thought-provoking discussions to practical takeaways, our speakers have left an indelible mark on our events. We appreciate the time and effort that they have invested in making this forum a success. Our moderator, on the other hand, have skillfully guided us through the conversation, ensuring a smooth flow of ideas and keeping us on track. Let's give a round of applause to our fantastic moderator and speakers for today. All right, so as for all the students joining here, physically and virtually, thank you to all your active participation in the Q&A session. Next, as we reflect on the profound insights shared today, we have a special treat for you, a documentary screening that further underscores the significance of our theme. So, here is One Health, One Future by the University of Alaska Fairbanks.
Together, life. The sharp inhalation of breath, energy, air, soil, growth. Green leaves stretching towards the sun, rough wind whistling across jagged rocks. The dance of water, drip of freshly melted ice, the urgency of the hunt. The drive to thrive, survive, and grow. The wake left behind by the movement of magnificent creatures. The flash of speed, spark of life, erosion, exploration, innovation, expansion, growth. This is all life interconnected. Every creature's survival, our planet's very future made manifest through these dynamic connections. An interwoven complex web that surrounds and includes every creature, be it human, animal, environmental, each lockstep in a dance that has persisted through all time, nothing existing alone. The strengths of one enriching another, all suffering when one falls. This universal global dance of cause and effect, interconnected lives, health, and being tied together, tightly woven into an intricate, delicate balance. Together, linked, whole, all one. One planet, one existence, one health, one future. Ours is a planet shared by many, a singular home to a richly diverse spectrum of life forms, all living in a solitary world where the impacts to one are shared by many. This interconnection between people, animals, and their shared environments is the foundation of what is known as One Health. One Health is a collaborative view of the world, interconnected, dependent, linked together.
One Health is the way the world works. the blending of animal studies, human studies, and our ecosystem studies.
You do not look as this is an environmental issue only, this is an animal health issue only, this is a human health issue only, but really look at how are these things connected.
Nothing exists in a vacuum. All of these things have impacts on everything else, and you really need to look at the system as a whole.
To understand a One Health view of the world, one has to understand the connection between all living things. Humans connected to animals, which are connected to the environment, which in return is connected back to the humans. Take the thawing sea ice in the Arctic, for example. Snow and ice, important climate regulators, becomes drastically reduced, creating violent weather and severe storms. Some species, such as a bowhead whale, gain weight in the warm water. They have more calves, but their gains might be short-lived. Their food source, zooplankton, disappear because it feeds off an algae reliant on sea ice. The edge of the sea ice becomes unstable, dangerous for human hunters who lose access to their traditional food source as seal and walrus, relying on the ice as a platform, disperse. Open water creates access for new shipping traffic, impacting marine mammals with vessel traffic, noise, and waste. Also increasing the potential for ecosystem-wide impacting accidents and spills. As the soil thaws, the microbiology changes, affecting plants and berries. Animals, parasites, and insects, such as ticks, not typical to the Arctic, move northward. Beaches, typically protected by the ice for much of the year, erodes as the coastline is eaten away meters at a time, destroying communities and homes. In short, lose the sea ice, and every species, every facet of life in the Arctic is impacted significantly because they're all connected. Recognizing the interdependence of human, animal, and environmental health gives researchers the ability to view issues facing our planet through a wide lens, integrate multiple disciplines, and address root causes for problems by understanding the actual source of an issue.
In the scientific world, in the medical world, we tend to work in silos. We tend to work within our own disease disciplines or areas of interest, and sometimes we don't know what we don't know. By using a One Health approach, we bring other people into the conversation that have other kinds of knowledge that can contribute to our understanding.
The tenets of One Health originated in the veterinary profession.
We began to realize that about 75% of the emerging infectious diseases in people were of zoonotic origin, which means that they came from animals. And so that's where the term One Health came from.
And a lot of the, especially infectious disease threats, are intimately related to changes in the land or the animals around people.
You actually have to prevent the disease in animals to prevent the disease in people. So you vaccinate dogs against rabies in order to protect people.
In recent years, recognizing the global interdependence between humans, animals, and the environment has become vital in the effort to combat disease and prevent outbreaks. In 2020, the highly contagious COVID-19 virus spread throughout the planet, impacting travel, commerce, and the lives of billions of people. As a member of the coronavirus family, COVID-19 attacked the respiratory system, causing sudden viral pneumonia, severe illness, and for some, death. Modern worldwide travel contributed to COVID-19's rapid global proliferation. What appears to have begun in China was soon introduced to other nations, and within weeks, infections spread to every corner of the globe. Within just a few short months, the virus infected millions of people, killing hundreds of thousands around the world, overwhelming healthcare systems, locking entire nations down to reduce the spread, disrupting global economies to the cost of trillions of dollars in relief efforts. While the sudden spread of the virus caught the world by surprise, researchers had long been warning about a possible global coronavirus pandemic. The SARS virus, which spread throughout Asia in 2003, along with a MERS virus, which impacted the Middle East in 2012, were all members of the same deadly family of viruses. These early coronavirus outbreaks signaled a warning that a future emergence of a SARS-like virus could and would happen, exposing a world that was vulnerably out of balance, with humans and animals coexisting in concentrated and potentially dangerous ways.
So to really understand human health issues in the infectious disease side, you do need a good understanding of animal dynamics and animal health because they're so closely connected.
There isn't one thing that's going on that's wrong. It's usually a multitude of factors. It's important to include all trophic levels and how How are people impacting this organism, or is the environment healthy, and is that in turn affecting the health of this organism?
That's been a longstanding approach at CDC to look at underlying determinants that lead to infectious disease risks and to think about the animal and environmental world as ways to better understand those threats and to reduce the risk.
While the exact instance of the viral transfer of COVID-19 to humans may not be known, many infectious disease experts point to the wet markets of China as one place where the disease spread rapidly and then disseminated to other regions. In those markets, hundreds of species of animals are sold in a single marketplace as traditional food sources, increasing the likelihood of disease transmission. Not developing effective monitoring and comprehensive safety plans for the wet markets after the SARS and MERS outbreaks was a missed opportunity that might have reduced the spread of the deadly COVID-19 virus, since the virus likely originated in bats and was transmitted to an intermediate host animal before infecting humans.
If we know something about the way a new disease in animals, the way it progresses from animal to animal, then those are things, and how to protect the public from the infection.
For many nations, the response to the outbreak was often aligned along partisan and political lines. Effort to contain the outbreak was hampered by disagreements, inaccurate data.
All right, that was very abrupt. We are very sorry that we only got to telecast about 10 minutes of the documentary, but please do watch the whole video on YouTube. It is entitled One Health, One Future. So right now we have the attendance QR code. Please do scan it. We'll give you 2 minutes to fill in the attendance. All right, so the 2-minute time is up. I hope everyone did scan the attendance QR code. We'll be handing in the e-certificate later on. All right, so now we would like to invite Professor Dr. Abdul Rahman Omar, Chairman of Malaysia One Health University Network, to offer his reflections and bring this forum to a close. The floor is yours.
Okay, right, I guess my closing remarks are just keeping you guys from lunch, right? Okay, anyway, I'll try to be brief. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good day. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests, passionate advocates for Youth Action in Animal Conservation, Zoonotic Diseases and Prevention Forum. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the organizer for inviting Mahun to be in this very important forum. Even though it's a very small role, I think I really appreciate by inviting Mahun to be part of this forum. As what have been pointed out by Dr. Indah, Mahun is a consortium of universities and relevant agencies in Malaysia, such as Ministry of Health, Department of Medical Service, and the Wildlife Department, where we come together organizing a lot of activity and programs in One Health, especially training programs. And our training programs are actually for in-service professionals from various sectors. I think many students also have attended some of the program by Mahun. And we also engage a fair bit of programs among community levels from Orang Kampung right to Orang Asli and vice versa. And very important, when we talk about One Health, any activity that we organize, we need to emphasize the importance of collaboration. Because as what we have listened from the presenter, what we deliberate during the forum, collaborations, working across sectorials. So many of the activity that we organize, we need to bring the best experts so that we can share some of the ideas, and more importantly, the activity that we run, we need to also address the core competencies that we need to impart in many of the training programs. Of course, I'd like to thank the speakers and the moderator for a very valuable sharing session in this One Earth and One Health program. I was listening from Zoom. It's truly inspiring, some of the ideas you are bringing up, and of course among some of the questions raised by the students. And all of you are basically future leaders for Malaysia and of the world. I think this is something that very important. I hope more this kind of activity can be organized, especially when it comes to talking about One Health, issues that are of global concern that cut across various sectors. I also like to sincerely say thanks to the organizer of the event, the secretariat of this forum, the faculty of the Medicine Institute from Malaysia, Mahun, and ClimeX, okay, for the very timely time to organize this event and making this event successful. As we draw to the close of this forum, let us reflect some of the inspiring discussions and value shared insight that we have listened from the forum. As we have understand and know now that in order for us to effectively control, prevent zoonotic diseases, we have to take this One Health approach that involves collaboration, cut across the human health sector, the animal health sector, and of course, when we talk about animal health sector, we cannot go away from the domestic animal as well as the wildlife. We have listened how important wildlife part from wildlife part, and of course, definitely the environment and the and as well as the ecosystems. Therefore, to address One Health issues, we cannot work in silos. We cannot work in silos. Various stakeholders from various sectors need to work together. I'm very intrigued with some of the points being raised up regarding inclusive. We have to get about all the various sectors people in developing our ideas. What is our preparedness plan in order for us to prevent and respond to these emerging and re-emerging zoonotic diseases, as well as other problems such as AMR and so forth. As what has been pointed out by some of the speakers, they say that Asia is a hotspot for zoonotic diseases. That's true. But then, of course, there are a lot of ways and means we can make Asia not as a hotspot for zoonotic diseases. And one of the most important that we pointed out by our speakers also, behavioral change. Because hotspots mean, why become hotspots? Because the way how we manage our animal, the way how we keep our market, the way how we manage our food. So if we're able to change this unhealthy practice, poor biosecurity, definitely we can minimize the chances of a spillover for any zoonotic diseases to happen. Throughout this forum, we have underscored the pivotal role of youth, how they can play an important role in steering the course toward a sustainable and harmonious coexistence between humans and animal kingdom. The passion and the innovative ideas come from all of our young participants are truly inspiring, where all of us have to play a role, whether big or small, in bringing positive changes, creating solutions, and creating impactful outcomes. As we move forward, let us carry the spirit of collaboration and commitments that have defined this gathering. The challenges before us are immense, but so is our collective potential to address them. Let us continue to foster partnerships, leverage technology, and empower the new generation to be the catalyst of change. By working hand in hand, we can create a legacy of environmental stewardships, biodiversity preservation, and disease prevention. In close, I encourage each you to take the insight gained here and translate it into actionable initiatives. Whether you are an advocate, a policymaker, a researcher, or a concerned citizen, your role is pivotal in advancing our shared goal. Thank you once again for your invaluable contributions. Let us leave this room inspired, connected, and ready to embark on a journey towards a healthier and a more sustainable planet for all beings. Together, we can make a lasting impact. Thank you very much.
All right, so thank you very much to Professor Dr. Abdul Rahman Omar for his insightful and inspiring closing remarks. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your active participation and contributions to the success of this forum. Your presence virtually and physically has made the event truly special. So as we adjourn, may the discussions and insights gained today serve as catalysts for positive change in promoting the well-being of our planet and its inhabitants. We look forward to crossing paths in the journey toward one Earth, one health, nurturing nature, empowering tomorrow. So we will be ending our online session for today. However, to the audience inside the auditorium, please do remain seated as we have a closing ceremony. So ladies and gentlemen, as we draw near the conclusion of our event, it's time to express our heartfelt gratitude to the remarkable individuals who have shared their insights and expertise with us today. To assist us in presenting tokens of appreciation to our distinguished speakers, I would like to invite Professor Dr. Abdul Rahman Omar, Chairman of Malaysia One Health University Network, accompanied by Associate Professor Dr.